to another exciting episode. I am your host, Jana Bernard, and of course we have our other talented and lovely co-host, Alex Alpert.
Hello, hello.
And Alex, you are like Broadway's Frozen. That's how frozen you are right now.
Let it go.
So before we get started with our incredible interview, guys, I really think you're going to enjoy this one. This was really, really fun with Duane Burress, masterful comedian. We, of course, have our New York City fun facts.
I'm going to start it off. Jana, did you know in New York City, there is a birth every 4.4 minutes?
Whoa!
4.4 minutes.
Whoa!
That's not a baby.
Did you know that New York City got its nickname, the Big Apple, because in the 1920s, they had horse races around New York City, and they used to reward the horses with apples. So this thereby birthed the name, the Big Apple.
No way.
For the city's nickname in 1971 as a result of an ad campaign that was based off of that fact.
That's insane. That's the last thing I would have ever guessed.
Right?
I thought there used to be like a Big Apple statue, like the Statue of Liberty or something.
Oh, really?
That's wild.
Speaking of wild, we have had a wild time with this comedian and such a fun, exciting interview. So happy to present another episode of Still
New York.
Duane, should we start this interview off by having you tell us kind of how you got started?
Yeah, I can. Yes, so it's funny because I started acting since I was 14 years old. I went to professional performing arts school, graduated for acting. I went to University of the Arts for acting. But then in 2015, I ended up in a theater company, and someone that I met there performed at Greenwich Village Comedy Club and Broadway Comedy Club. They were a comedian, and I kept bailing out on the shows. He kept asking, he was inviting me to go to the shows, and I kept saying, "Oh, yeah, I'll go."
Yeah.
But I never attended. And then one day I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. We got really drunk, and we pulled up to Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and the person that books, the producer, actually, he saw the both of us, thought the both of us were performing. And me, of course, under the influence, I was pretty much like, "Oh, if you need me to improvise, I can." I've never had, I've never done stand-up comedy ever.
Yeah, and Liquid Courage was like on your side.
Yeah,
Liquid
exactly.
Courage was like, you are an artist, you are a comedian.
You're
this
funny.
is not central.
Exactly. So then he put a date down for me, like he gave me 2 weeks to come up with a set.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Broadway Comedy Club, I performed my first set. I would like to think that I did pretty well. However, I was freaking out before then. I wrote down like the jokes on my hand. Maybe I can cheat it if I'm holding the microphone.
You pulled like a Mulan.
Yes, exactly.
Like on your like, oh no.
Exactly. And it ended up it ended the same way, similar, because I ended up washing my hands before I went on stage. So all the notes that I had gone. So I had to improvise.
I thought you were going to say it ended similarly in that you also fought for China. And
then that's another story.
Becoming like this amazing young heroine with a father very proud of you.
We'll get to that.
Yes, that's for my next book. That's perfect.
Comedy set we write.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how it happened. I knew that after the first time I wanted to do it again because it went so well, but I got too confident that I bombed completely the second time. So that I knew that if I wanted to do this, I was going to commit to it and be prepared. And then ever since then, it's been great since, in terms of the comedy side, performing.
Wow, that's amazing.
I suffer from what they call generalized anxiety disorder. Anxiety? Yeah. Anxiety people in the house. How'd you guys find out? It can't be the same way I found out. I don't know. I found out through WebMD. That's how I don't know. Same? No? Nobody? I'm the only one? I'm the only asshole? When you suffer from anxiety, you tend to overcomplicate things. You tend to overthink things, as you guys know. Like, I'm in a relationship, and not too long ago, my girlfriend, she turned to me and she asked, have you ever had 5 guys? Five? I mean, that's a little excessive, no? Don't you think?
So
Yeah.
are you from New York City? Did you grow up around here?
So yeah, I grew up in the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx. I now live in the Bronx. Yeah, it's not something to really be proud of, but it's the only reason why anyone would go to the Bronx is if you're going to the Bronx Zoo or Yankee Stadium. But yes, I'm from New York. I lived in Philly for a year for college. I don't know if that counts, but yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So I have, as somebody who also does comedy, I immediately want to be like, how bad did you bomb? Like and with a positive spin, like, how did you overcome those times when you're like, oh, the only people in the audience are crickets? Like,
Yes.
and how did you continue to be like, you know what, I'm going to keep flexing that comedy muscle, even on the nights where it feels like this isn't really going as hot as I wanted it to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my parents were there, and it was the disappointment. My parents' faces, and afterwards they were like, "Don't you dare ever come to a comedy set unprepared." And yeah, and I rightfully so, because they paid money to see me completely coming unprepared. Yeah, and I was
And then
like,
you got
you know
like
what?
a tomato in the face.
Like, Mom.
We're gonna get this for dinner.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that it was that disappointment that I realized, yeah, you know what, you're right. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make sure that I do it correctly, and I prepare. I was I can't say confident. I was way too cocky because I did well the first time. That I realized, okay, yeah, humble yourself. Gotta
Either that or you gotta write it in Sharpie.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Or you gotta tattoo that set.
Yes,
At least
exactly.
like the intro joke and the outro, because you gotta start strong and you gotta finish strong.
Just have someone hold the teleprompter up in the back. Yeah.
Saturday Night Live with the cue card.
Yeah, exactly.
Like mom and dad are just in the back, like the set.
Exactly. That's how that happened. That's how I ended up overcoming that. So then the third time, I made sure that it was just redemption. It was to prove my parents, like, look, I am in the arts. This is something that I want to do. That's how that, that's pretty much the story on that.
That's amazing that your parents were there to support you. I mean, sounds like it was some tough love after, but at least they were there to support you in what's clearly such a gift of yours. Like,
yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
So for that, after that first, second, third time, what were the next couple years like? I mean, prior to COVID and everything, how would you describe your comedy career then?
So I did take a break at around 2017, but part of it, I started to notice a pattern. A lot of comedians would perform for what they call bringer shows. And bringer shows, if you don't know, a producer gets a comedian, he tells them they have to bring a certain amount of guests in order for them to perform. And then they'll give them maybe like 5 minutes on stage. And it's great if you're just starting out, but for my own personal opinion, it's a scam. And I say that because you'll have a producer, they'll have a venue that holds 60 people, and they'll get 12 comedians, and they'll tell them you have to bring 5 or more people in order for you to perform. Well, then the producer didn't do the job. It was the comedians that did. Also, watching 12 comedians back to back can get exhausting. So it wasn't about the art. It was strictly business, the business aspect of it. And I didn't want to be in that environment. So what ended up happening, in 2019, August 2019, I believe, I wanted to produce my own shows under DBJ Comedy. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to give artists the incentive to perform on stage. And I also wanted to put on shows. Part of it too is if they do decide, of course, it's not a bringer show, but if you do decide to bring anybody for a certain amount of guests, then I will pay the comedians if they wanted to do that. But the work in terms of building my brand and getting people to watch a comedy show, that's on me. I feel like that's my job. That shouldn't be, comedians shouldn't feel pressured to do that. So then when COVID hit, it was easier for me to adjust because one, I'm an actor. I do self-tapes all the time. Virtual comedy shows weren't a big deal, but also for me, it was about the art first and then the business part of it. And a lot of the producers I've noticed that had bringer shows that put business first suffered throughout the pandemic because the focus wasn't on the artists or their comedians that helped them get to where they needed to be. So a lot of it for me was about giving back. So that's been fun. It's been challenging. It has been challenging, but it's been fun throughout the pandemic.
That's amazing. And Duane, we think it's so cool that you have been able to establish your own brand and your own style so well and so clearly. I think my question for you is, again, as like a comedian, is what do you think is like your main message or some of the main messages that you want to get across through your punchlines?
That's good. That's a good question too, because recently I started taking like self-help training and like just for myself and of course self-help. Yeah. But a lot of what I'm starting to learn, what I'm starting to pick up on is just me standing for authenticity. I mean, there's always that quest for autonomy, that quest for freedom, just living your authentic self. And most of the jokes that I tell are just hyperbolic versions of actual stories. Like that's things that have happened to me, just my personal experience. But of course, it's exaggerated. So for me, it's a matter of being authentic. And it takes some time for comedians to find their authentic selves. And I get that. I totally get that because you're feeling the pressure from, of course, the crowd and even the producers and
your parents.
Your parents. Yeah, exactly. My parents. You watch other comedians on television, you see how they succeed, but you realize that's not you. So you try to figure, some people would try and mock that. They try to imitate that. But it's just finding your authentic self and putting that on stage. And that's the message that I want to get across. And once you do that, your incentive to perform, I mean, it will always be there. It'll just be innately in you.
I think that's such a beautiful take-home message for all of our artists watching is, because Alex is like a very skilled artist, like visual artist. And nice. I think that this can be, and we've done episodes with musicians as well. And I think that that's such a universally applicable concept is like, put you into the art first, Put it before the business, put it before, trying to appeal to the audience, like put your authentic self into your art. And then at the end of the day, if nothing else, you're proud of it. And like, you know that, this is me. This is like me. This is me doing me, which is a great feeling. So I think that's so cool, Duane.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. I think part of it too is like when you do, at the end of the day, if you do bomb, you still know that you were, as you said, your authentic self. So it doesn't hurt as much. A lot of what I'm learning as well is fear-based versus love-based. When you come in from a fear-based perspective, it's not as authentic. You're in your head as opposed to what's in here, of course, in your heart. Now it sounds like sappy, but it's pretty much just going deep inside who you are and bringing that out. And that's the love-based part of it. So even if you do fail, failure is inevitable. So if you do, that's okay. You're stepping out of excellence. You're not being a perfectionist. Because that's also dangerous, being a perfectionist. It can be. That's pretty much it. Just inconsistency. That's the other part.
Great. That's amazing advice. So you mentioned that you were doing virtual comedy over Zoom throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
So part of it's been a challenge because a lot of the comedians that I know, most of them are not actors. So when the pandemic hit, a lot of them were depressed, which I totally understand, because they feed off an audience. This is something they'd love to do. Which made my incentive to try and, help them out. It expanded. I try to trying to convince comedians that there are other ways besides, performing live shows where you can live your authentic self, has been difficult. That's been the most difficult part. I try to also pre-record the show so that way they wouldn't feel the pressure, just to take some of the pressure off. So I pre-record the shows and turn it into, like, I would edit the shows, which I've learned throughout this pandemic, messing around with Final Cut Pro and doing all of that, buying the studio lights and the camera and the microphone. I would edit it and turn it into like a late night show or whatever the case. And if their families wanted to see it, they can purchase tickets if they want to. And then the comedians will also get paid for it. But it's been challenging because most of them are not actors. It's a matter of setting an example, like, hey, look, it is still possible for you to perform virtual shows.
And that's so great that you've been able to adapt, right? Like this, I think that COVID's shown us many things as people, right? And of course as artists, but especially as artists, that we need to be able to adapt our art, and we need to be able to take our art and be able to put it on a different stage or a different screen in this case. So I think it definitely has forced us to also become more of the behind the scenes skills as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my next question for you would be, what is your advice to up and coming comedians or up and coming artists who are trying to make their own work during this time?
Yeah, I've noticed that actually. I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry. I think it got broken up.
Oh, no worries. It gives me a second shot to rephrase the question. My question was, what's your advice for your comedians or young artists trying to make art during this time?
I'm not one to tell anybody what to do, but from my own personal experience, I've noticed that a lot of artists have any idea that you would have. Speak from my experience. Any idea that I would have, I will write it down. I will forget. And also I want to surround myself with people who will hold me accountable, for one, but also who will support me in the decisions that I would make. And it's not necessarily any decision. Of course, if it's unethical, then don't support me on those, but hold me accountable for those things. Give me ideas. Interdependence is probably the best way of pushing your art forward. I had a habit of thinking that I can do it myself. I'm just going to do things myself. That's why I bought the equipment myself, because I figured, all right, well, this is if you want something done right, then you do it yourself. But it ends up not being the case. If you want something done right, you get a group of people who have the same goals as you, and you do it together. That would be from my experience. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to creatively collaborate.
Exactly. Yeah. If if people feel like they can do it themselves, and hey, you do that. I just know that I personally came to the realization that it's difficult.
Enjoy your New Year.
Yeah, I did. Did you enjoy your New Year?
I did.
You did? What'd you do?
I went to a bar.
Went to oh, okay. All right. You ready, excited for the 20s?
Yeah, Roaring 20s. Yeah.
Roaring 20s, yeah. Who, anybody went to the Roaring 20s and had their own party? Yeah? That's cool. I mean, it's all right. As a millennial, that's cool, because, you know, you want to enjoy.
Roaring 20s.
Exactly. You go back to, like, the simple,
Exactly.
you know, the time.
That's all that matters.
But as a minority, I'd rather eat Tide Pods because I misread directions than get my ass whooped because I read.
So now that stuff, knock on wood, seems like it's starting to open up a tiny bit. Are you seeing any return to normalcy in the comedy world?
This is why this date was it was perfect timing, because maybe like 3 hours ago, I was confirmed for live shows, dates in Broadway Comedy Club in Greenwich Village. No, not just Broadway. Yeah.
That's so silly. When is it happening, and can people go see it?
Yeah. So April 10th is the first one. They're all going to be Saturday shows. So April 10th, and then the rest of April, May 22nd, and then all of the Saturdays in June. All of them are going to be at Broadway Comedy Club at 5:30 p.m. And I just found out a couple hours ago. So now I'm in the process of getting the comedians and making the flyers and getting everything set. Yeah.
You must be happy, man.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm going.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll be there. We're gonna definitely follow up on that. And if people need more information, can they go to your website? Should they go to your Instagram?
Yeah. So I on Facebook, Instagram, I have to go on Twitter more often, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon. That all of them, you can type in DBJ Comedy and it will come up. Patreon is usually, I want to use that format in terms of subscribing, and those who have those subscriptions could just go to any show that they want. I also, I started using it before the live shows in terms of when I started producing virtual comedy shows and editing them. So those who subscribed were able to see what the comedians were up to during that time. But yeah, just go through DBJ Comedy and all of those platforms, and you'll be updated on the upcoming shows.
Well, we are so excited that you joined us today.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to go to your show. Alex and I are going to be like proud parents in the front row. Just like, here you go.
Yeah.
Let me know if you guys want to perform too, please.
She's got that.
Yes. Please.
I might reach out to you like, yo, this sounds
this is perfect. Yeah.
You should.
Talk about creatively collaborating.
Right.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
hey, man, I'll draw your flyers.
Oh, nice. Even better. Yeah, this is
There you
perfect.
go.
Whole team now. So excited. Guys, this is great for our audience to see. Like, you never know who you're going to meet with other artists. Collaborate or join creative forces, and I think that's such a beautiful thing about the arts community, and also like New York City, is because we all say what's on our mind. So if you want to create with somebody else, just like reach out, and for now, Duane, thank you so much, really, from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you guys. Seriously. I'm glad that this was set up. I'm glad that I was able to meet you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys again. I was going to say, I hope I see you guys soon. No, I look forward.
You will.
Exactly. Thank you.